Hi there, welcome to the second episode dedicated to my top favorite small talk phrases. So today we're going to practice some very useful expressions you can use while having some small talk with your friends or while having some casual conversations at work. So all these expressions can be used in both contexts, depending on how formal the situation is. Of course, before we get started, make sure to subscribe to my channel. There are plenty of videos waiting for you already, so make sure you subscribe to my channel so that you could get some notification whenever a new video is released. So I'm going to show you top 10 phrases that I use on a daily basis together with some examples, and then we're going to have some short sentence translation exercise. Are you ready? I hope so. Let's kick off. Okay, let's have a look at expression number 1, which is simply, it slipped my mind. It has slipped my mind. What does it mean? Well, whenever you forget a word, a name, or whenever you forget to do something, you can just basically say, instead of saying I've forgotten, you can always say, sorry, it slipped my mind. It has slipped my mind, present perfect, because, well, we're talking about this consequence on the present moment. It slipped your mind, and that's why, well, you haven't done it, or that's why you're not prepared, for example. Let's have a look at some small dialogue so that you could see how it works in this practical context. Of course, you can shadow me, you can read together with me to practice pronunciation. You can always stop the video and read this sentence once again to practice some pronunciation. So the sky is the limit, you can use different options here. So let me read it. Do you remember what time we were supposed to meet up with the team? Sorry, it slipped my mind. I have no idea. I've forgotten, right? So do you remember what time we were supposed to meet up with the team? We, well, should or we have to meet with the team. Sorry, it slipped my mind. So that's expression number 1. Of course, we were supposed to do something. If you want to practice this one, check out my videos. There is one video waiting for you where I basically explain this very useful structure. Let's have a look at expression number 2, which is simply, have you managed? Have you managed to do something? Okay, and we basically use this sentence whenever we want to ask somebody if they have actually, well, done something already, right? So instead of saying, have you done it? Have you finished it? Have you sent it? Then in this business English environment especially, it's very nice to actually say, have you managed to contact the client? So instead of saying, have you contacted the client? Then you can always say, have you managed to contact the client? So have you had a chance to contact the client? Okay? And then, yes, I've managed to reach him, but, well, he told me to call him back. So have you managed to contact the client? And the answer, yes, I've managed to reach him, but, well, he told me to call him back. Are you with me? Of course, stop the video if you want to process these mini dialogues and these expressions. Of course, remember, you don't have to take any notes because below this video there is a PDF waiting for you, okay? So, are you ready for expression number 3? Let's have a look at it. We will catch up later. We will catch up later. So whenever you're talking to somebody, but, well, suddenly you've got to go, right? But you still have so many topics to talk about, but, well, you don't have time to do so, you can always say, okay, we will catch up later. We will talk later. Yeah, you will tell me about everything later. Let's take a look at some example, some mini dialogue. It's been great talking to you, but I've got to go. It's been great talking to you, but I've got to go. And British people very often will pronounce this phrase, I've got to go, even faster. So they will actually say, I've got to go. I've got to go. Okay? I've got to go. So I have to go, I've got to go, or the fastest version, I've got to go. I've got to go. You can repeat after me if you want to. I've got to go. So remember, it's not actually I gotta go, okay? But it's I've gotta go. I've gotta go. Okay? Is it clear? And now the answer, no worries. We will catch up later. So we will talk later. We will catch up later. And I think no worries, that was actually the phrase we had in the first episode of our conversation phrases. I hope you remember this one. So as you can see, very useful dialogue. It's been great talking to you, but I've got to go. If you say I have to go, it's also fine. And then the other person can answer, no worries, we will catch up later. Very useful one. Try to memorize it. Expression number 4, what's it called? What's it called? So here you have to be very careful because it's a very common mistake to say how it's called, okay? I can hear it very often, people saying how it's called. So if you want to say, oh my God, what's the name of this thing? What's the name of this object? Then, what's it called? No, how is it called? Okay? Let's have a look at some mini dialogue. I hope it will make you understand this phrase better, but it will also help you memorize the use of this phrase. So, of course, you can read it with me. Recently, I've tested this new AI chat. What's it called? So what's the name of this chat? I've forgotten. What's it called? You mean ChatGPT? So you see, what's it called? What's it called? So it's not even a question, right? It's kind of like a, rhetorical question, like, what was the name of this chat? What's it called? Okay? But no, how is it called? Write it down. Don't make this mistake. What's it called? Expression number 5. This is actually a phrase when you want to use whenever, you don't really agree with somebody, but you want to express it in this kind of polite, diplomatic manner. So instead of saying, I don't agree with you, you could actually say, well, I agree to some extent, but, and then you can present the opposite point of view. Okay? So even if you strongly disagree with somebody, but still you want to be quite polite, then it's much better to say, yeah, I agree to some extent, but, have you thought about a different option? Let's have a look at the example. I believe that everybody deserves to be paid the same amount of money. Well, I agree to some extent, but don't you think that it all depends on the level of experience? Once again, well, I agree to some extent, but don't you think it all depends on the level of experience? So very nice phrase as well. I agree to some extent. Okay, ready for phrase number 6? I need to cut down on something. So instead of saying I need to limit something, I need to reduce something, you can also use this nice phrasal verb, I need to cut down on something, or I need to cut down on doing something, if you want to use a verb. So this is a phrasal verb. If you've got my ebook, 200 Phrasal Verbs in Business English, probably you're familiar with this phrasal verb. And if not, I strongly recommend you to download this free chapter of my ebook. I generally, modestly can say that I'm really proud of this ebook. I get a lot of nice feedback. It's very practical. You can start using these phrasal verbs straight away. You have a lot of fragments from movies, so I really suggest that you check it out. But now, let's have a look at this mini dialogue. Let's read it together. Are you trying to get rid of some bad habits at the moment? Yes, I'm actually trying to cut down on watching Netflix. It's such a time eater. So you see, you can actually say, I'm trying to cut down on Netflix, if it's just a noun, right? Cut down on Netflix. But then you can also add this verb with the ing ending, because remember, after prepositions like on, at, in, we always have this ing ending added to the verb. So I'm trying to cut down on watching Netflix. It's such a time eater. Time eater, this is also a very nice phrase you can use to talk about an activity which, is quite time consuming, but in this negative way. So instead of that, you could possibly be doing something more productive. But well, we all enjoy watching Netflix. It is a time eater, but what can we do? I would say it's our guilty pleasure, isn't it? Expression number 7. The thing is that. And now, this is not particularly a phrase that you would use all the time in this business environment because it's quite informal, I would say. But well, whenever you don't know how to explain something or you don't know what to say really in a conversation, then you can always use this nice phrase at the beginning and then introduce your thought. Let's have a look at some example. What do you mean by that? Well, the thing is that the boss expects us to work overtime, and this is something I didn't sign up for. Didn't sign up for, this is also a phrasal verb. You see how useful phrasal verbs are? So the thing is that the boss expects us to work overtime. So of course you could skip this phrase and you could just say, well, the boss expects us to work overtime. But then you want to kind of say, well, what I mean is that. Well, the thing is that. So very useful, well, filler, I would say. So something you can fill your language with. I guess you can also use it in any situation. And now another phrase of mine that I use on a daily basis is I've just found out that. I suppose you can use it everywhere in any context because, well, we keep receiving news on a daily basis, we keep learning new things, new facts, so I suppose you would use this phrase a lot. You have just here, and well, especially in this British English variety, you will use present perfect tense here because you've just found out. So it's literally now, and the consequence is on the present moment. So it has recently happened. That's why it's present perfect here. And now let's take a look at some examples, some mini dialogue. Of course, you can read it with me. You look angry. What's happened? What's happened? It's like what has happened now. Well, I've just found out that I'm supposed to lay 20 people off. Can you imagine it? I've just found out that I'm supposed to lay 20 people off. So it's kind of bad news, isn't it? I'm supposed to, I have to, I should, I'm expected to lay 20 people off. Again, I'm supposed to, very practical structure. You can find my YouTube video, the whole YouTube video class on my channel regarding this structure. So I've just found out that. Of course, you could also create a question like, when did you find out? But then remember that if you're starting with when, then you're supposed to use past simple. So it's going to be, when did you find out? When did you find out that blah, 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 right? Number 9. There is something to it. There is something to it. So remember, we don't say there is something in it, okay? That will be some kind of calque from the Polish language. And when can we use it? Let's have a look at some small talk dialogue. If you ask me, I believe everybody's able to succeed as long as they put a lot of effort. True. There is something to it. So it's true. There is some truth in it. So of course you could say there is some truth in it, but in this expression, there is something to it. Remember about that, okay? And again, if you're talking to somebody and you basically agree with what they've said, you are of the same opinion, you can always say, true, there is something to it. You're right, okay? And also pay attention to this useful time clause here. So if you ask me, I believe everybody's able to succeed as long as they put a lot of effort. So as long as, dopóki, tak długo jak, and then after that, remember, you always have present simple tense, not future simple, okay? Of course, all these time clauses are discussed in my conditionals and wishes course. If you don't have it yet, check it out as well. Plenty of practical knowledge and exercises in this business English context. And now, are you ready for the last one? Number 10. Sooner or later. I love this one. I think I use it all the time because whenever you're talking about the future, then you always want to, well, think about this sooner or later. So I believe that sooner or later things will happen. Let's have a look at some example. You know, I can't see any point in learning English at the moment. Well, sooner or later you will have to start using it at work. So perhaps it would be nice to start working on your English now. So you see, I can't see any point in learning English at the moment. And then you can say, well, sooner or later you might have to start using it at work. You will have to start using it at work, okay? Or sooner or later you will get used to it. Sooner or later you will get used to it. So very useful phrase as well. So have you enjoyed these 10 most favorite expressions of mine that I use on a daily basis? These are very useful expressions, so I really suggest that you use them. Now, the last thing I've prepared for you today is this small exercise, sentence translation. Just a few sentences. We will see how much you remember from today's class. So I will test you a bit, okay? Let's have a look at it. Okay, so your task is to have a look at the sentence. Stop the video if you need more time to translate this sentence. I suggest that you say it aloud, and then I'm gonna show you the correct answer. So, the clock is ticking, stop the video and translate it. Let's have a look at the answer. When did you find out that the company cut down on expenses? So we have two expressions. When did you find out that the company cut down on expenses? Limited the expenses. Okay? So we will slowly move on to the second one. Stop the video if you want to read these examples once again. If not, sentence number 2. Okay, how would you translate this one? Stop the video, say it aloud, and let's check the answer. Sooner or later, you will manage to master the English grammar. Sooner or later, expression number 1, you will manage to master the English grammar. So you will manage to master, it's like you will be able to master, you will be successful in doing it, you will succeed in doing something, okay? Sooner or later, you will manage to master the English grammar. And I do hope so. Remember that my video courses are designed to help you master English tenses and conditionals and wishes. So if you want to master your English grammar, I would say it's a must simply. Sentence number 3. You have 3 expressions from today's class. I'm just wondering if you remember these expressions. Stop the video now and let's have a look at the proper translation. Well, the thing is that we have to find what's it called? What's the name of this thing? It slipped my mind. So this is what you can do when you forget a word in English, for example, or if you forget the name of something, right? So what's it called? Repeat after me, what's it called? It slipped my mind. And that would be it. So we've had just 3 sentences to be translated, but well, I would say packed with plenty of expressions that we've discussed today. And now, please remember that below this video you have this PDF with all the phrases, all these dialogues, some further exercises as well. Well, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, make sure to do so. And of course, let me know in the comment which expression is new to you, which one are you going to use from now on, which one is your favorite. Let me know in the comment. Cheers!